The unforgettable disappearance of Marissa Hollowell, Jasper, Arkansas, 1998. On a warm October afternoon in 1998, beneath the whispering canopy of the Ozark National Forest, 17-year-old Marissa Hollowell stepped onto an old fire service trail near Jasper, Arkansas, and was never seen again. No cries for help, no signs of struggle. Only a half-finished sketchbook was left behind on a moss-covered rock. Case file 98 AR MH0423. Classification: open/endangered missing. Jurisdiction: Newton County Sheriff's Office. Assigned investigator: Detective James T. Rennick. Last confirmed sighting: October 23, 1998, 4:45 p.m. Mill Creek Hollow Trailhead. Before we dive in, if you enjoy chilling true stories and unsettling mysteries, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you know when new videos are available. Marissa Lynn Hollowell had always been described as a quiet light in a peaceful town. 17 years old, pale blonde hair that drifted down her mid-back, and eyes like rain on a window pane, soft gray, often far off. A high school senior at Jasper High, she was known for her art, introspective nature, and a curious sense of distance that kept her at arm's length even from those who cared most. Born and raised in Newton County, Marissa was the only child of Alan and Nancy Hollowell, longtime residents and co-owners of a local hardware store off Highway 7. Her upbringing was stable by most accounts. No police records, no signs of neglect or abuse. Her teachers described her as polite, if somewhat absent-minded, and her closest friends said she often spoke of dreams that felt more like memories, though none could explain precisely what she meant by that. Marissa had grown more withdrawn in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. One teacher, Mrs. Lattimore, recalled how she begun arriving late to class, sometimes skipping school entirely to sit by the old quarry pond off Bear Creek Road, just west of town. Her artwork, which once depicted serene Ozark landscapes and rustic barns, had grown darker, more abstract. Twisted trees, hollow figures, and scenes that felt oddly apocalyptic. When asked about them, Marissa reportedly replied, "I just paint what I see when I dream." Despite her increasingly odd behavior, there was no indication she posed a threat to herself or anyone else. Her parents chalked it up to growing pains in her teenage years. Her friends thought she was going through an artistic phase, but hindsight, as it so often does, would cast their assumptions in a different light. October 23rd, 1998, the last day, that Friday, the weather was unseasonably warm for late October, mid-70s, with a breeze that carried the scent of hickory and drying leaves. Marissa was seen leaving Jasper High around noon, telling the attendant secretary she had a dentist appointment. Records show no such appointment had been made. Instead, Marissa drove her powder blue 1986 Honda Civic north, past the edge of town, toward Mill Creek Hollow, a seldom used stretch of national forest favored by bird watchers and the occasional hiker. According to the Newton County Sheriff's Office report, her vehicle was later found neatly parked on the gravel shoulder near the trailhead at 5:17 p.m. by a pair of Forest Service workers conducting a seasonal burn assessment. They noticed the car but didn't find it suspicious at the time. It wasn't until the following day, when the Hollowells reported their daughter missing, that authorities returned and processed the vehicle. Inside the Civic, everything appeared undisturbed. Her purse was on the passenger seat, wallet untouched. A half-empty bottle of spring water was in the cup holder. An olive green backpack contained pencils, charcoal, and her sketch pad in the back seat. One page had been torn out. The next showed a half-completed drawing of what appeared to be Mill Creek Hollow itself. Twisted trees framing a narrow trail, with a dark shape just visible in the tree-line. Investigators have never publicly confirmed what, if anything, the shape was supposed to represent. Search efforts began in earnest the next morning. For 4 days, more than 60 volunteers, 2 K-9 units, and a state police helicopter combed the area within a 10-mile radius of the trailhead. Dogs followed a scent up the narrow trail, leading northwest for about 3/4 mile before abruptly losing the trail at a small footbridge over an unnamed creek. There were no footprints, no signs of fall or struggle, just a dense undergrowth and a forest silence. By the end of the week, The Newton County Sheriff's Office made their first public statement, calling Marissa Hollowell's disappearance highly unusual, but without clear evidence of foul play. Detective James Rennick led the investigation and told reporters, "We don't have a crime scene. We don't have a witness. What we have is a 17-year-old girl who vanished in the space of less than an hour under perfectly normal conditions. That doesn't just happen. Possible sightings and misleads." In the following days and weeks, tips came in across Arkansas and Missouri. A gas station clerk in Harrison thought she'd seen Marissa with a man in a red pickup. A hiker in Ponca reported hearing a scream near the Buffalo River. A woman in Mountain Home claimed to have spoken to a girl with long blonde hair and a faraway look, asking for directions to Highway 62. None of the sightings could be confirmed. The man in the red pickup was later identified and cleared. The scream turned out to be a bobcat. The girl in Mountain Home was another teenager altogether. By Thanksgiving, the trail had gone cold. Community impact. Marissa's disappearance became a whispered legacy in Jasper, a town of fewer than 500 residents. Flyers remained on the windows of the post office and the bulletin board at the family market well into the following year. Candlelight vigils were held monthly. The school planted a dogwood tree in her honor behind the art building. But beneath the sorrow lay unease. Parents began watching their children more closely. Old trails fell into disuse. And for years, some townspeople avoided Mill Creek Hollow entirely, as though the forest might remember what happened. The Hollowell family never moved. They kept the hardware store open and Marissa's room unchanged. Every year on October 23rd, Nancy Hollowell placed a single candle in the front window and turned it on at dusk. She continued the ritual until she died in 2014. In an interview from 2006, Alan Hollowell said, "There's a part of me that still thinks she just walked too far and got turned around. Maybe she hit her head, maybe she's still out there somewhere. But there's another part, a quieter part, that says no, something took her, something we don't understand." Theories and speculation. Over the years, theories have abounded, though none with substantiated evidence. Some believe Marissa ran away, perhaps to join an underground artist commune or escape some unseen pressure home. But she left behind her money, ID, and the art she was most proud of. Others suspect foul play, a drifter passing through, a local with a secret, or perhaps someone who knew Marissa's schedule and habits too well. But these remain only shadows without evidence, names, or even a working theory. The more fringe theories tread into the surreal. Some online forums point to her artwork's dreamlike quality, her growing detachment, and her cryptic comments about painting what she saw in her sleep. They speculate about everything from dissociative fugue states to metaphysical phenomena. The Newton County Sheriff's Office has declined to comment on such claims. Present day, more than 2 decades have passed since that autumn afternoon. The trail at Mill Creek Hollow is overgrown mainly now, and the wooden bridge is damp with moss and warped with time. But the Hollowell case file still sits open on the desk of the Newton County Cold Case Unit, reviewed once a year without fail. Occasionally, someone still leaves small drawings pinned to the trailhead sign. Soft sketches of forests, wildflowers, and in one case, a girl sitting alone beside a creek. No one has ever claimed responsibility, and so the mystery endures. 1 hour of one afternoon in a small Arkansas town has unraveled into decades of silence, unanswered questions, and a name etched into the memory of a community that never quite moved on. Next time, we'll walk step by step through the final known movements of Marissa Hollowell, explore the documented evidence, examine the search efforts breakdown, and consider the theories that still circulate today. What clues, if any, were left behind? And how could a teenage girl vanish so completely from a forest watched by so many eyes? The morning of October 23rd, 1998, began like most others in Jasper, Arkansas. A soft fog clung to the trees, and the early sun filtered to the fold of the Ozark Mountains like warm breath over cold glass. By sundown, the town would begin whispering a name that has never faded: Marissa Hollowell. This is the day she disappeared, mapped by minutes, anchored by witness accounts, and shadowed by silence. 7:12 a.m., Hollowell residence, Highway 327. Nancy Hollowell told investigators that Marissa had been quiet that morning. She didn't eat breakfast, only took a thermos of tea and left the house wearing a gray corduroy jacket, faded jeans, and hiking boots, her usual attire. Her backpack, containing drawing supplies and a weathered paperback copy of Leaves of Grass, was slung over one shoulder. Alan Hollowell last saw his daughter backing out a graveled driveway in her '86 Honda Civic. She didn't even turn on the radio like she normally does, he later said. Just rolled down the window and waved. 7:50 a.m., Jasper High School. Marissa checked into the homeroom, was present and accounted for it. Mrs. Elaine Lattimore, her AP English teacher, noticed Marissa sketching something in the margins of her notebook during class, a dense thicket of trees, with a solitary figure barely visible in the center. When asked what it was, Marissa reportedly said, "It's somewhere I feel drawn to. I think I'll go there later today." According to attendance records, Marissa stayed to the second period but left between 11:20 and 11:30 a.m. At 11:26 a.m., she signed out the front office, citing a dental appointment. The secretary on duty, Clara Brummel, later told investigators that Marissa seemed composed but didn't make eye contact, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. There was no dental appointment scheduled. 12:04 p.m., gas station, Highway 7. CCTV footage from Kegel's Quick Stop shows Marissa fueling her Civic and walking inside to buy a bottle of water and a granola bar. She exchanged no words with the cashier, paying in cash and exiting without delay. She looked like she had someplace to be, the attendant, Jim Owens, later said. Focused, not scared, just distant. This was the last confirmed sighting of Marissa Hollowell by anyone other than law enforcement. 12:27 p.m., Mill Creek Hollow Trailhead. Based on tire tracks and vehicle position, investigators estimate Marissa arrived at the Mill Creek Hollow Trailhead around this time. The area, about 4.3 miles north of Jasper, is isolated but not completely remote. Forest Service Road 14 winds through the dense underbrush to the trailhead, which opens into a network of narrow trails and service paths used by hikers and birders. Her Civic was locked and parked neatly on the right shoulder facing west. Nothing appeared disturbed. The engine was cool, suggesting she had been gone for several hours when it was discovered later that evening. Inside the car, purse, wallet, and keys on the passenger seat. The backpack has a sketch pad, pencils, and watercolors in the rear. The last page, a near-complete drawing of Mill Creek Hollow. Twisted trees, narrow path, and in the distance a dark, indistinct shape. No fingerprints besides Marissa's were found. No signs of struggle. No blood, no broken glass. 4:45 p.m., trailhead sighting unconfirmed. Two Forest Service workers, Paul Granger and Riley Thorne, noted the Civic parked at the trailhead as they passed to inspect a fire break. Neither man saw Marissa or anyone else near the area. Granger remembered thinking, "Someone's gonna lose daylight out here fast," but didn't stop to investigate. 6:13 p.m., Hollowell family reports her missing. When Marissa failed to return home, her parents began calling her friends. None had seen or heard from her since morning. By 6:13 p.m., they contacted the Newton County Sheriff's Office. Deputy Allison Kent responded to the residents, took an initial statement, and entered Marissa into the NCIC as a missing juvenile, case number 98 AR MH0423. A bolo, be on the lookout, was issued for her vehicle. 7:22 p.m., Civic located. Deputy Brad Morelli located the Civic at the Mill Creek Hollow Trailhead. No immediate signs of foul play were evident, but the search was delayed until first light due to the rapidly approaching darkness. The search begins October 24th to 29th, 1998. By 7 a.m. the next morning, a multi-agency effort was underway. Newton County SAR Search and Rescue was joined by Arkansas State Police, the U.S. Forest Service, and civilian volunteers. Thermal imaging from a helicopter showed no anomalies. Bloodhounds tracked Marissa's scent up the trail and across the wooden bridge, but lost it near a rocky outcrop 0.8 miles in. There was no sign she ever came back across that bridge, said SAR lead Marcus Bentley. It's like she went in, and the forest swallowed her whole. Items recovered during search. A water bottle identical to the one purchased at the gas station was found 500 yards into the trail. A torn piece of sketch pad paper, partially buried in leaves, with a charcoal drawing of a narrow creek bed. No clothing, phone, or personal items beyond these. Witness sightings and false leads. Red herring number 1, the man in the pickup. On October 25th, a tipster from Harrison reported seeing a girl resembling Marissa with a middle-aged man in a red Dodge pickup, heading north on Highway 65. The man was later identified as Dennis Kroll, a retired school teacher traveling with his granddaughter. Both were cleared. Red herring number 2, the crying girl in Ponca. A hiker near Ponca reported hearing what he thought was a young woman sobbing in the woods around dusk on October 23rd. Search teams canvassed the area with no results. No one else reported hearing anything similar, and no tracks or signs were found. Family and community reactions. Nancy Hollowell took to the local press with restrained desperation. In one television interview, she said, "Marissa's a dreamer, but she's not careless. She wouldn't just vanish. Something's happened to her." Alan Hollowell remained stoic. When asked by a reporter if he believed Marissa had run away, he replied, "No. If she wanted to leave, she'd tell us. She's not the type to disappear without reason." Local media gave the case heavy initial coverage. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette ran a front-page feature. Television stations from Little Rock and Fayetteville aired nightly updates. For a time, the community came together, vigils, flyer campaigns, volunteers combing ravines and riverbanks. But as days became weeks, coverage waned. Without new leads, the story began slipping from the headlines. Police theories and internal disagreements. While no evidence of foul play was found, investigators remained divided. Detective James Rennick, lead on the case, believed the absence of physical evidence was itself telling. A 17-year-old doesn't just walk into the woods and vanish without a trace. This wasn't a fall. This wasn't an accident. Some deputies suggested suicide, though her family rejected the idea vehemently. Marissa left no note, no history of depression or self-harm. That theory was a way to make the search easier to abandon, said her friend Ashley Renslow. Others speculated she may have staged her disappearance to start over. But again, no money, phone ID, or witnesses seeing her leave the woods. Rumors and speculation. In small towns, silence breeds stories. Some whispered a man who once lived in a hunting shack near Mill Creek, a recluse known for unsettling behavior. He had moved away years before, but quickly became the center of armchair theories online. Others pointed to older legends, Ozark folklore about thin places in the woods where people vanished. But most dismissed such talk as just that, talk. But among those who knew Marissa, one unsettling truth lingered. She had, for weeks, seemed fixated on something in those woods. Her art, words, and growing detachment all pointed to Mill Creek. Present status. As of 2025, the Newton County Sheriff's Office classifies the case as active, with no viable leads. The Hollowell file remains open. No new evidence has surfaced. No human remains have been found in the area despite renewed drone sweeps in 2014 and 2022. And on October 23rd, someone still leaves a charcoal drawing at the trailhead every year. A forest, a narrow path. And it's been over 25 years since Marissa Hollowell walked into the forest of Mill Creek Hollow and never walked out. Her disappearance remains one of the most confounding and quietly disturbing cold cases in Arkansas's history. Despite hundreds of person hours, national media attention, and periodic reinvestigation by cold case units, no definitive answers ever emerged. Without closure, 3 primary theories have taken root, each plausible, each shadowed by unsettling questions. What follows is a deep dive into those possibilities. No sensationalism, no easy answers. Just the facts, the unknowns, and a lingering ache of a trail that leads to nowhere. Theory 1. Abduction by an unknown party. Of all the scenarios considered, abduction remains the most plausible and unsettling. Circumstantial indicators. Location vulnerability. Mill Creek Hollow is remote. Once you enter the trail system, visibility drops significantly. The trail bends and twists, canopied by thick foliage. There are long stretches with no cell phone reception, though in 1998, Marissa didn't carry a phone. Anyone waiting along that trail could have watched without being seen. Timing and opportunity. Marissa left school around 11:26 a.m. Her vehicle was spotted at the trailhead by 12:27 p.m. If someone followed her from town or knew she would be alone, it provided nearly an hour's window to intercept her. Lack of struggle. The Civic was locked and her belongings were undisturbed. This suggests she left the car voluntarily, not under duress. But once inside the woods, anything could have happened. Profile of a potential offender. Retired FBI profiler Dana Keller reviewed the case in 2009 and noted the eerie precision of the disappearance. It's either someone with experience in backwoods terrain or someone with a deep familiarity with Marissa's habits. Locals have long whispered about a drifter named Eugene Sawtooth Mitchell, who reportedly squatted in an old hunting cabin deep in the Ozarks during the late 90s. He was never charged with any crime and disappeared in 2001. Despite the rumors, law enforcement found no evidence linking him to the Hollowell case. Counterpoints. No witnesses reported seeing another vehicle at the trailhead. No physical evidence, footprints, DNA, or fibers, was recovered. No ransom note, no communication, no confirmed sightings after October 23rd. It's a theory haunted by absence. If Marissa was taken, whoever took her left nothing behind. Just a vacuum of sound, light, and certainty. Theory 2, voluntary disappearance, stage escape. Could Marissa have chosen to vanish? To some investigators, it's not only possible, it's probable. Supporting clues, withdrawn behavior. Marissa had become increasingly introspective in the weeks before her disappearance. She spent long hours drawing and hiking alone. Friends describe her as distracted and detached. Final drawing. The last page of her sketchbook showed a forest scene, a shadowed figure standing at the trail's edge, looking outward. It wasn't the first time she drew herself disappearing into the trees. No struggle. There were no signs of resistance at her vehicle. She left her wallet and phone, perhaps intentionally to delay tracking, but her car was locked, as if she expected to return or never intended to. The dental lie. Marissa signed out of school, claiming a dental appointment that didn't exist. Why fabricate an excuse unless she wanted to leave unnoticed? The emotional question. Was Marissa running from something? Family and friends reject this theory. She loved her life, said her childhood friend, Rhiannon Davis. She had dreams of going to art school. She was close to her parents. She was intense, but she wasn't impulsive. Still, no suicide note was found, no diary expressing despair, and importantly, no trace of her was ever discovered in or beyond the forest. If she planned to leave her life behind, she succeeded flawlessly. That in itself raises doubts. Counterpoints. No financial preparations. She had under $40 in her wallet. No history of depression, mental illness, or suicidal ideation. No credible sightings post-disappearance, despite national media exposure. This theory hinges on an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes people walk away. And if that's what happened, Marissa left no breadcrumbs to follow. Only a locked car and a forest full of questions. Theory 3, accidental death or natural causes. Could this have been a tragic accident that nature conspired to erase? The terrain surrounding Mill Creek Hollow is harsh. Dense undergrowth and steep inclines, the deeper recesses of the Ozarks, and hidden sinkholes and abandoned mine shafts the landscape. Supporting elements. Search limitations. Despite extensive searches, certain regions were never fully canvassed due to dangerous terrain. 9 units lost her scent at a rocky outcrop, possibly where she slipped or climbed into a more bottomless ravine. Weather conditions. Though not reported as severe, nights in late October can reach low temperatures. Exposure is a genuine threat, especially if disoriented or injured. No remains recovered. While puzzling, this is not unheard of. Several other missing persons cases in the Ozarks have never resulted in the recovery of remains, even after years. Predators, weather, and time can erase evidence with alarming efficiency. Expert opinion. In 2016, SAR expert Walt Dermott who led recovery operations in Newton County during the 1990s, stated, "We've lost people less than 2 miles from the trailhead who weren't found for years or never. The woods out here are old. They don't give up their secrets easily." What doesn't fit? Marissa was a capable hiker who was familiar with the trail. She left her water and pack behind. Found just inside the woods. Odd behavior for someone preparing for a longer trek. Her scent trail ended sharply, with no physical trace beyond. If it was an accident, it left no trace, no broken limbs, torn clothing, or disturbed earth, a vanishing without residue. Theory 4, fringe something unnatural. We tread carefully here, but we'd be remiss not to mention that some believe something else happened in those woods. Arkansas has its share of local legends. The Ozarks are home to stories of the lights in the hollow, and more than one person, going back decades, has reported strange auditory hallucinations near Mill Creek. Voices, laughter, or music with no apparent source. The Hollowell drawings. Several of Marissa's earlier sketches, later recovered from her school locker, showed heavily stylized images of dense woods with unnatural silhouettes, elongated figures, humanoid but faceless. In one particularly eerie drawing, a figure is depicted with hands extended, beckoning. Her friend Ashley later recalled, she said she felt like she was being pulled toward something, like she didn't have a choice. We don't present this theory as fact. We don't need to. In the case of missing persons with zero evidence, the mind naturally drifts to the impossible. We only ask, why was her final drawing so deliberate? Why did she lie about her destination that day? And why has no sign of her ever been found? Nothing in over 2 decades. The lingering questions. Marissa's disappearance is not just a mystery of time and place. It's a void where explanations seem to evaporate under scrutiny. Her room remains untouched. Her parents keep the porch light on every October. Cold case units revisit the file every few years, finding nothing new. The Civic sits in a secure police storage lot in Harrison. It's been examined dozens of times. Still, no new evidence. Still, no new leads. No one knows who or what waited for Marissa in those woods. All that remains is the feeling that she didn't just vanish. She was taken. Or maybe she chose it. Or perhaps she slipped into some hidden seam in the forest. Someplace the world doesn't reach. What do you think happened to Marissa Hollowell? Was it a tragic accident or something far more sinister? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to the channel for more content relating to horrors and missing cases.